you, Faya. That was so beautiful. I believe if the ocean can sing, she would sound very much like that. That was exactly what we needed to enter this next conversation, where we will explore the concept of connection in another regard. We're connecting the dots back to the ocean across all areas of life. This intimate fireside chat will shed light on missed opportunities and ongoing work to bridge gaps across representation, knowledge, and capacity building to better understand the ocean for all that it sustains and for the wonder that it is. Please join me in welcoming to the stage two incredible ocean leaders. One, a scientist who holds many firsts. She is the first woman to become chief scientist of the U.S. National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration and Time Magazine's first hero of the planet, Dr. Sylvia Earle. Welcome. You're in the middle. The other, a renowned business leader, dedicated philanthropist, and game changer moving the needle on ocean awareness, Ocean X founder, Ray Dalio. Ooh, all right. Dr. Sylvia Ray, I understand you two are beautiful, lifelong friends working in the ocean space, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so this will be just a great fireside, like we're in Dr. Sylvia's living room, or where you're on your research vessel, let's say.
The fire is a little bit north of where we are right now.
Yes, the fire is north of us. So thank you both for sharing just so much passion in the ocean space. I want to first start out by asking what, Dr. Sylvia, your personal ocean story is and how you became to love the wonder that is the ocean.
I think my story is just beginning.
Yes. Woo!
There's so much more to discover and to put into action. More of that later. I want to hear from Ray.
Okay.
No.
This is what
Sylvia.
This is what Sylvia always does.
It's such a great long story, but you can give us at least a little bit of
All
the
right.
tidbit.
Well, I got knocked over by a wave when I was 3 years old, and the ocean got my attention. And I've had the urge to submerge ever since.
What was your first memory with the ocean? Do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, I could first hear the ocean. And then I don't know which came first, smelling the ocean or hearing it, but then I could see the ocean and finally touch the ocean. But what has held my attention for these many years is the ocean is alive. It was on the New Jersey shore, these big horseshoe crabs that for literally hundreds of millions of years have been climbing out of the ocean and they're still here. But we have to take care lest on our watch they disappear. So it's the story of the 21st century. The best chance we will ever have to secure safety for horseshoe crabs, for tunas and whales, and for all of us. I mean, this is the moment. The first time we've known what we now know. And it's maybe the last best chance we'll ever have to make peace with nature. We're, right on the edge in so many ways. People talk about the planetary boundaries of climate, temperature, planetary chemistry, a lot of things. Imagine if we did not know. But we do know. That is our superpower.
Yes, indeed. Ray, what was your first memory with the ocean?
I grew up near the ocean on Long Island. So like Sylvia, the crabs, the shells, all of those experiences. And then watching Jacques Cousteau amazed me of what was going on. And then I learned to dive. And then I was lucky enough to have experiences with ocean explorers, and the rest, it was impact. I got a sense of the excitement. I wanted to share the excitement, so it was pretty much a lifelong journey from being a little kid to having more and more immersion in the ocean.
Amazing. And we'll dive deep into Ocean X in just a second. Seems like both for you too, ocean was your first love. So of all the climate solutions and all of the ecosystems collapsing, why focus on oceans? Dr. Sylvia, let's start with you.
Well, the ocean makes Earth habitable. No ocean, no life. Earth would be a lot like Mars without the ocean. This is the only place that we know of in the universe. There's a lot of water out there, a lot of rocks. This is the only biogeochemical miracle with an emphasis on the bio, life. Life shapes the water and the rocks to make Earth habitable, and it's taken 4.5 billion years to get us to this place from rocks, rocks and then water, and then life. And it's taken us, think about 1,500, that's, I think 4.5 centuries ago or so, when our population was about 500 million, to where we are today with 8 billion. It's even in the terms of 4.5 decades, the change wrought by us, modifying those ancient systems in ways that seemed like a good idea at the time to foster our prosperity by consuming nature, and we're still doing it. But tides are changing. I think we're beginning to grasp the significance that the most important thing we take from the ocean is not fish or shrimp or krill or cod or horseshoe crabs or oil or gas or minerals. The most important thing we take is it's our existence. It's life, our life. Mm. Life as we know it is dependent on maintaining the integrity of the ocean.
That's so beautiful. The more we take from the ocean, the more we take from ourselves.
And the more we bite into our life support system. Ask any astronaut. Do you take care of your life support system, the thing that keeps you alive? Well, they tend to learn everything they can about what keeps them alive and take care of it. Learn about it, take care of it. We're learning more. I think, Ray, since Cousteau inspired you and inspired me as well, we've learned more about the ocean than during all preceding history. But at the same time, we're on a fast track to lose more because we think 90% of the sharks are gone. And a lot of the big fish down to historic low levels. And what we're doing in terms of planetary warming, the chemistry of the planet is changing because of us. And we have a chance, the best chance, right now. 21st century human beings, kids, there's so much that's cause for despair. But imagine if we didn't know that we have problems. That would be the biggest problem of all. But I think we're so lucky. We still have 10% of the sharks. We still have half the coral reefs. It's not over. Could be, but we have a chance to change course from this to recovery.
Yes, changing tides. Ray, what was your personal motivation in prioritizing ocean, both in your personal life and in your work?
Well, there's an intellectual part and there's an emotional part. Intellectually, it's the biggest, most important thing, right? 72% of the world's surface. The water line is about halfway up. The deepest part of the sea, it's about 11,000 meters, and Everest is about that. And so this water line, and 72%. So it's like all these continents, it's bigger than all the continents combined. In terms of habitable space, it's got 90% of the habitable space. it's so important. And then there's this emotional part. Like when you go down there and you see all the things that we see, and you saw how emotional it is, how fabulous it is, and then it's totally unexplored and has huge potential. So just imagine there was a continent that we never went to, that had all different species and all different things. We'd be compelled to go there for the exploration, the excitement and the importance of it. But this is twice the size, more than twice the size of all continents combined, and it's unexplored, and the potential, the cost effectiveness. The cost effectiveness of exploring the ocean is radically greater than exploring outer space.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
We need to do both.
so it's a tragedy and an excitement.
And the deeper we go, the less we know, as you point out. But we know enough to know that that's what keeps us alive. And we're right on the edge of doing damage to the very systems that keep us alive. So why else would we come together and say we have to protect at least 30% of the land, at least 30% of the ocean right now, within the next few years? What is the or else? We will continue this trajectory of decline, because even though there's much we don't know, we know enough to know that taking care of nature, it's our life support system, and it's vulnerable. Think about all the rest of the universe. Where else is there? It's here. And we've got the evidence. And we did not have the evidence when I was a kid. And the thought that we need to go to look at the so-called blue economy as a way to take more from the ocean. No, I think knowing that we need to look at other ways to make fortunes by not taking from the ocean, but by restoring what we've already lost, and to figure it out. We've got great capacity to consider the real value of the living ocean. We know that whales are more valuable alive than dead. I don't mean just ecotourism, or even the carbon value in whales as the carbon value in trees, or sharks, or tuna, or anything else. The living systems have to be more important intact than just, we've already taken so much, can't we dive into what we've already taken and make great fortunes by mining what we've already mined, recycle what we've already extracted? Can't we figure it out? Or maybe we have to figure it out.
Sylvia says it so well, it makes the case so well, and she could go on probably for hours and make a greater case about
Yeah, you guys have time, right?
Into the intellectualization of it.
Yes.
Okay. And at the same time, that won't get us anywhere.
I agree.
Until we see it and we're part of it and we're immersed in it. I just imagine, there's this sheet and you can't look below the sheet. Just imagine it was clear and you can look below the sheet. And then there's the difference of technology. Yes. Amazing changes in technology. For example, on our ship we have a remote operated vehicle that goes down 6,000 meters. So that means it can see 98% of the world's ocean is within the 6,000 meters. And we have a camera on the front of it, 3D, 360-degree camera. And with goggles, you can go anywhere in the ocean with this technology, and you can see what's going on there. And kids can actually, with a joystick, operate it from a schoolroom and be there with their goggles and so on.
Sharing the view.
Right. And so this potential, the excitement, for me, it was untapped potential. For me, that was my motivation, because there it is. And to create and then a great ship, which is a combination of supporting ocean exploration, but media that brings all of that back to people so that they can participate. Like, why isn't that? The amount of money that goes to space exploration is about 120 times the amount of money that goes to ocean exploration.
Wow.
And it's much more cost effective to go to ocean exploration.
This is
so
a
there's
part
an
of space.
enormous potential, and there's an enormous, it's both a kick and it also makes for a better life in terms of creating our better planet. So when we talk about those, the intellectual and the emotional, I think have to both be part of it.
No, I'm totally with you. It was reading William Beebe's Half Mile Down when I was a kid. I never got to meet William Beebe. I did meet Jacques Cousteau, and I know some of his family. I guess I know most of his family. But the descriptions of going into the part of the ocean where sunlight does not shine, and that's only about 1,000 feet down, where most of life on Earth lives in the dark all of the time, illuminated by the flash, the sparkle, and the glow of bioluminescence. That just fired my imagination. I could not wait as a kid to be able to have a chance to do what you're describing, to share, to be able to see what Beebe saw. But I actually had a chance to help, working with engineers, build little submersibles, and I found myself down at the edge of light and below the edge. And I saw the sparkle and glow of bioluminescence. And like you, I really felt compelled to be able to share the view and to get, I still do. I think, well, the vicarious experience, like all of you out there who are looking at what we're doing here vicariously, still nothing like being here with Ray and with you and with all of you personally. So the combination of still, and I know you do it, you go down little submarines, and I continue to be driven. I want to go, I want to see for myself, and I do feel that now, because of the opportunity to communicate on a scale that was never possible until right about now, not just knowledge, and not just information, not just graphs and charts and evidence of that sort, but the feeling of that is ineffable. It's what poetry and art and music take us beyond just facts and figures.
So ocean is art in itself.
Oh, yeah.
It's radical imagination. Honestly, you two don't even need me here. I'm like, why? You two can have this
You're
conversation.
doing a great job.
Why did you care about the ocean?
Well, Dr. Sylvia, I wanted to backtrack a little bit. So just to give some people perspective, in case everyone here is an ocean ally, an ocean lover, but what is the biggest problem facing the ocean? Can we just nail that?
Sure. Well, from my perspective anyway, you can easily look at what we're putting into the ocean, CO2, the avalanche of plastics, toxic chemicals, what we're taking out of the ocean, hundreds of millions of tons of ocean wildlife that we call seafood. We have to think differently about life in the ocean, just as it's taken us a long time to think about songbirds, eagles and owls and furry things as something other than products and whatever, something to eat or use. But those are big problems. But the biggest problem still is not knowing. It's ignorance. Why should I care about the ocean? You know, most of you in the audience here, and probably most of you listening, but if you look around, we still have an immense challenge of getting our species to understand why they should care about the ocean. It's ignorance.
Yeah, so let's talk about this ignorance, because I think a lot of humanity think that we're very separate from the ocean. What is that intersection between planetary ocean health and humanity health? I would love for you both.
Yeah. Well, just if you like to breathe, you'll listen up. It doesn't matter where on the planet you are connected with every breath you take and every drop of water you drink. Right, Ray?
Ray, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think your question is like very similar to asking the question, why is it important? Why is the Earth important? Like it would take, and so you were asked the question of what is the greatest tragedy or missing, what are we most missing, what is most important, okay? And then if we were to list all the things, we'd be here all day, right? So for our well-being, in so many ways, for all of these things. So, but if you say, what is the greatest tragedy missing, Sylvia's totally correct, right? It's tragic lack of awareness and connection with the ocean. It's like if all the land on Earth was not explored. So you'd say, what is it? So much? So you can't list it, it's going to take too long. What is it? We're not there. What's the greatest missing thing? A tragic lack of connection and awareness to it. Isn't that it?
Yeah, and there's
Hands down. Yes, Dr. Sylvia.
we have some big issues coming up just this year about protection of the high seas, about protection or not of the deep sea. The International Seabed Authority, July, will meet to either approve or maybe hit the pause button in terms of making it okay for companies and countries to start mining the still largely unexplored, unknown deep sea. But we know enough to know, the report came out just last week, about the 5,000 plus species, most of them yet to be given names, that have been discovered over time in the very area where mining is projected to begin, or not, depending on what happens or doesn't happen in July of this year.
What Sylvia's referring to, I think, is really, really important, because what's happening as the technology improves, and those who have, there's no plan, there's no understanding, and those who have the financial desires to exploit that because it is profitable or have a big advantage, because there are going to be those resources and they're going to go do that, and that's what their objective is. The consequences of that are going to be like changing the world. And so it's essential that it's explored and priorities are made. Where do you mine? How do you mine? How do you operate that way? Because the technology things are going to change this 72% of the world is going to be changed without knowledge.
And do we actually have to do it? And if we have to do it, must we do it now with the magnitude of ignorance so
But we're going to
vast?
do it. In other words, we're not going to stop it. The issue is whether we also rush to do it by surveying it, understanding it, thinking it through, coordinating it, and doing it in a right way.
But
Because
maybe-
without, you won't prevent it.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, is that a challenge?
I think
Do you hear
the
a
most
challenge?
important thing to mine from the deep sea is knowledge that is there. There's a library of life. Wouldn't we like to know how the process takes place? It takes a long time, millions of years, to distill the various elements out of the same elements that are in the universe, that are in the ocean. But to disproportionately, mostly from microbial action, it appears, around something organic like a shark's tooth, or a little bit of shell, or ear bone of a whale. That's where microbial action, drawing the minerals out of the ocean, a long, long time. Because all of these elements, cobalt, nickel, copper, manganese itself, whatever it is, tiny little bits in the ocean. If we could figure out how do those microbes do it and harness their power, maybe we don't have to rip apart the ocean floor. Maybe we don't need these metals in the next generation of batteries and other products that we use them for now. The idea that we need to mine the deep sea to power the green revolution, I think that's a great marketing ploy, but I don't know that it's real.
So, okay, yes, thank you. this is interesting because you, on one hand, Dr. Sylvia, you said the only thing we can mine is knowledge. Ray, you believe it's inevitable.
Of course. Look, I'm a practical guy, right? We have a. May I just
Yes, please.
explain?
Please.
There are forces, there are power, and how are we doing on the earth in terms of managing those things? What resources are handled how on the earth? Okay, you know that there's a battle between the economics of exploiting natural resources, and you know in cases you need natural resources. So we can't be against natural resources and we can't be against that. The only thing we can do is hopefully a better job than we're doing on land in terms of first understanding and planning. If we don't understand and plan and control, then you're not going to prevent it. It's like preventing destiny. So we could all be here naively saying, oh, don't do anything down there, okay? It ain't gonna work.
Okay, so let's talk about, because this is very fascinating, these two different perspectives. What are some other barriers and challenges in advocating for the interest in the ocean, whether or not beyond mining? What are some of the biggest barriers and challenges in making sure there are plans and cross-sectoral collaboration and making sure that the ocean is protected?
Different self-interests. In other words, the profit motive, how that contrasts with the total ecological well-being. There are different interests. There's selfishness. Look at the illegal fishing and so on. It's a contrast between not taking care of the whole, right? There's not a good contingency or a good plan for taking care of the whole. We don't have the penalties, for example, for pollution. They're not the economic penalties for what we're doing to ourselves. So that it's self-interest to make profit at the expense of maybe the greater whole. And then there's governance. We work in places where we see this all the time. Illegal fishing, for example. Just the corruption element. Literally in places where there's laws and how that works in terms of enforcement. These are the realities I'm talking about. I'm not being theoretical. I encounter it all the time.
So I just want to confirm, you fundamentally believe we can work with ocean in a way where it's not solely for profit?
You must deal with an understanding. Now, maybe it's too much to ask. I mean, with the world that we're living in where there is corruption, there is exploitation. I mean, just think about enforcing illegal fishing. You know, I mean, there are laws and there are rules and so on. Think about how challenging it is. So you do the best you can. There's the United Nations here, okay? So as we think about how does governance work? How does governance work? What is a plan? What are the choices that are made? That is our only hope.
But
Dr. Sylvia?
Identifying the problems is halfway toward solving them. If we didn't know about illegal and legal fishing that reinforces taking more than can be replenished on a, quote, sustainable basis. Giving a different value to nature is one of our biggest challenges. What is a tree alive worth versus a tree dead? You can turn it into board feet of lumber. You can build stuff out of a dead tree. But we're beginning, I mean, like right now, big conversations about nature, valuing nature, putting it on the balance sheet, and thinking about the International Monetary Fund's study of the value of whales, the carbon value. We have, you know, the world that existed when most of the laws that we currently live by, that world doesn't exist anymore. We've experienced the greatest time of change in the planetary processes in my lifetime, in yours, even if you're 10 years old, you've been seeing a shift in the degradation of Earth, nature, in ways that threaten, most of all, our continued existence. So that needs to be on the balance sheet. And for mining, why don't we mine what has already been mined as a great source of whatever we think we need? And I'm so encouraged by new technologies that are moving away from these rare earths, that unobtainium in the deep sea. Come on. It's a poor business model to build a society that requires materials that are hard to get to and cause great damage to obtain. If we're as smart as half as smart as we think we are, we need to think, how do we take what we've already taken and put it to better use, and figure out how do we feed ourselves? Big source of carbon, and about half the land transformed just to feed our current 8 billion people. We've got to do better with what we've got rather than eroding more of the land. And 97% of the ocean is currently without reasonable protection, highly or fully protected. 3% of the ocean. It means 97% of our life support system is kind of up for grabs. We can do better than that. I think that's where great fortunes are to be made, where we need to think differently about what the priorities are. Shouldn't number one priority be, first, we have to breathe. We have to have a planet that works in our favor, and then we can do whatever it is we do with things that make us human.
Dr. Sylvia, I'm so sorry. We need a full day for these two, right? I have someone right here telling me that time's up. So can we do one last question? Because I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no.
Can we do one last question? Because I know that we have a beautiful programming for the day ahead. One last question. Dr. Sylvia Ray, I know that you do transcendental meditation, and spiritual practice is a big part of it. So what's a part that connects you? We talked about the intellectual and the emotional connection to the ocean. What are some spiritual practices or ways that you personally allow yourself to be more connected to the great wonder that is the ocean?
Ray?
Your exploration? Ray?
Well, I think, as you said, I think for me, meditation has given me a certain sense of spirituality. I was speaking with the Dalai Lama, and we were also talking about prayer, and in various ways, the idea of a mantra and so on sort of raises one above one's own existence, one's own life, to see the arc of life and see the totality. And that's what I mean by spirituality, the connection to that whole. That has played a role. And then being in nature and seeing it controls me almost. It affects me in a very deep emotional way. And so I feel this when I'm the connectedness to it. And then, of course, there's the intellectualization part of it that we're talking about. So it's those elements, I think, that for me personally give me that connection.
Thank you. Dr. Sylvia?
It's looking into the eyes of other creatures who are innocent of anything humans do that make me wonder.
How do you do that?
I could wonder the ocean, or even people everywhere, but especially the kids, especially children, and especially I now have not just 4 grandsons, I have a great-grandchild. He's just a little guy. But it's the innocence of nature, the innocence of those who don't have a voice today. And the decisions we make, I just feel it all the time, have a magnified impact on everything that follows. I've said sometimes that what we do in the next 10 years, now it's 7 years, will determine the fate of the next 10,000 years. It's going to get harder. So I know there are problems, and I do feel like you, Ray, that sometimes it seems inevitable. How are we going to change the tide, if you will, of the movements of where we're going? But I know it's possible because I've seen it happen when you protect nature.
We agree on the goal. We agree on the goal.
Different processes. So, Dr. Sylvia, thank you so much. You remind me of this indigenous quote that says that we don't receive the land from our parents. We inherit it. So we inherit the ocean as well. We borrow it from our children. And Ray, prayers, mantras. Is there an ocean mantra that you can share with us?
No, but I do want to take the moment that I have, and I know we're running late. When Sylvia said, look in the eyes, and when you're down there and you look in the eyes of fish, and you're participating, I got a real kick schooling with barracuda. In other words, literally, they're schooling, and I wonder how they're schooling, and I go right in the middle of this schooling, and I'm schooling with them, and I look over at them, and they're looking over at me, and I'm having that kind of an experience. When you have experiences like that, and you look in the eyes, wow, that's something. That is connectivity.
Yes.
That
Yes.
is sort
Yes,
of spirituality.
beautiful. Okay, so because, maybe today you can't look a barracuda in the eyes, that's not possible, we challenge you to look a fellow participant, someone next to you, in the eyes, even for 30 seconds. I think that will bring just as much connectivity as a deep sea dive. Thank you, Dr. Sylvia Ray. Thank you both so much.